Today we're talking about how NCAA football is back, y'all. All this on Armchair Sports Talk Football. Welcome back. My name is Sean Hicks. So let's jump into the big news on Tuesday. NCAA football is back. That's what the NCAA wants you to think. That's not the truth and what has actually happened and what the NCAA has announced on Tuesday. For those unfamiliar, the NCAA has announced on Tuesday that they're going to have a mandate to have all the colleges under their umbrella, D1, D2, D3, to look into being able to deal with this name, image, license, and rights scenario that's going on with all the laws around the nation. So I'm here to kind of explain what this actually means, what they're doing, what's going on. And I was trying to figure out what's the best place to start. Do I just get right into it? Do I talk about name, image, and rights? Do I talk about the law in California? Do I talk about how all this is changing? Do I talk about what the NCAA came down? I decided Dan Carlin this. What I mean by Darren Carlin is like him talking about the Assyrians and Ashurbanipal, and when he has a long conversation about the Pacific War in World War II, I think it's just important to go back and figure out what is the NCAA. Simply put, the NCAA is a group of member organizations that have come together to collectively write the rules of how to deal with collegiate athletics. Now, this is really important to understand because the NCAA has a bunch of rules and bylaws. It's got a board of governors that's running everything. It's a multi-million dollar, tens, hundreds of $1 million organization. And the truth is, it's mostly a figurehead in a lot of areas because these board of governors are really chosen by the various school members. They don't have the type of power that make you think that they do. And it makes really what a lot of their oversight brings in a lot of questionable and dubious on how much they really want to be able to do. As what's famously said is the NCAA is going to get so mad at Kentucky they're going to ban Cleveland State. The reason why that joke has hung true for so long is because it's the wealthy organizations that really have the power in the NCAA. And as time has moved forward, is they've treated more as a figurehead. I think the best way to look at this is the way that Roger Goodell is the head of the NFL. Roger Goodell has no real power as the commissioner in the NFL. He exists to be nothing but to be a bumbling buffoon. So a bunch of people can point to, that guy's the problem. We need to get rid of that guy. Mark Emmert's the same thing. He's supposed to be a figurehead that has this pseudo power that they can use to get a lot of the blame out of there while getting a lot of credit to the member unions and student organization. It's a really genius strategy. Obviously, it works very well in the NFL, and it's worked well a lot of years. So why does this exist? Well, this was really came up when if you read a lot of old pre-1940s history, which is a lot of this pre-NCAA history of collegiate athletics, shit's insane. Ryan Field in Northwestern burned to the ground, literally burned to the ground. A lot of old school football matches ended in actual gunfights. There's a reason Teddy Roosevelt was about to ban football from Congress in the early 1900s and really moving throughout its early ages. This is really important to understand is kind of like how the game industry came with their rating system, the movie system with theirs, is this was their way to kind of try to get under control a growing problem and have some uniformity throughout the leagues. What they never understood that it was going to become was the moneymaker that it ended up being. College athletics was not a moneymaker for years and years and years. It was really sunk costs. They've lost money, but it was seen as marketing for your school. This has all changed, and really, through you could say the 90s, but it's really the contracts beginning with the creation of the Big Ten Network, and under Jim Delaney from the Big Ten Commissioner in about the mid 2000s. This is when you saw contracts skyrocket, and when you saw money really start flowing in. Before this, you didn't have the multi-million-dollar contracts that you saw beforehand. And this is what changed completely everything. It's changed the landscape of football and everything that's around it, right? Because you have this money and the NCAA amateurism model, they don't work together. The NCAA is a nonprofit that makes hundreds of $1 million a year. that by itself is a ridiculous statement to make. They're not a nonprofit. They're driven by money, but they have to find ways to do this. But remember, the NCAA is a figurehead. Most of this money is getting thrown to the schools, and the schools themselves have to find ways to be able to become revenue neutral or to lose money in a lot of cases. And they do it a lot of the ways you see people trying to dodge taxes. This is what's inflated coaches' salaries by tenfold. The highest paid coach in the 2000s made $1 million, $2 million. Dabo Swinney's going to make $9.2 million this year. The Michigan softball, while one of the best and maybe revenue neutral in the country, have built, I think, a $50 million, I may get my numbers wrong, but it's in that ballpark, facility for themselves when they're being able to practice. This is where your money is going. Athletic departments, again, using Michigan, this is what I know best, is quadrupled in size in the last 15 years. Their salary staff has increased 50% in the last 15 years. This is where the money is going of college athletics. Some of it is getting funneled in the schools, but the thing is, it's getting funneled to different areas that are not going to the players, that's going to ridiculous areas around side. And this is when NCAA in basketball, back when they made college basketball games, they had a Hall of Fame type mode, and they had your greatest games ever. And Ed O'Bannon, who was a legendary UCLA point guard, saw himself in a game that he was making no money off of. Well, that seems kind of weird and against what everything is supposed to do. And he sued the NCAA. And you saw a lot of similar type of things go on with the O'Bannon decision. You had the Northwestern Players Union. You've had a lot involving medical costs and scholarships along those lines. And all of them have come from losses to the NCAA, but really narrow decisions that haven't changed much. Though O'Bannon has the largest impact in the fact that we don't get college football sports game from EA again. It's not because there's not a demand. It's that the NCAA would have to basically crash their model to be able to do that, because they'd have to give money to the players, which EA would be happy to do, but NCAA says that's illegal, can't do that, and that's the reason why we've kind of been in the standstill. But what has this done? In effect, from a legality standpoint, it hasn't done what I think a lot of people wanted to do. But what it has done is change public opinion drastically. A lot of that is because you've had people like myself who grew up loving and playing those games. And you have a lot of people taking a look at athletic departments getting bloated, seeing all this money on everywhere and going, well, why are these guys not getting paid? And a lot of this is just really stupid decisions by the NCAA getting themselves. So one of it is certainly, I think you gotta credit college football journalism to point this out all the time. Jay Billis constantly points this out, how he could, go on to NCAA, Google Denard Robinson, have his jersey pop up, basically. Now, it didn't have Denard on the back, right? But that's what popped up as soon as you Googled that on the NCAA website, and they were charging $100 for his jersey, and he was making $0 off that. You tell me, does that make a whole lot of sense? And that's how this has started to change overall. So I think journalism has had a giant, very huge part of this. I think players growing up into seeing this and really get inundated, because you still have what is historically an older generation that still sees this as more unfavorable than the younger generation. But this younger generation is what's consuming a lot of this going on, and is frankly the players a lot, which is why you've got way more lawsuits and everything happening going on with it. And then you have the NCAA insane decisions. Look at Luke Ford not being able to transfer to Illinois and having to sit it out a year. Right when you have Tate Martell and being able to transfer right off the bat for reasons. You have questionable decisions like the horrible things that went on at Penn State, the horrible things that went on at Baylor, and then Missouri losing bowl ban because they cooperated with the NCAA. And I feel and I feel you can see this in a lot of things being able to happen, from basketball players going overseas, and Roquan Smith refusing to sign his letter of intent. And then I think it's all cumulated with this FBI case and the shoe contracts. I think everybody goes, what the hell is the FBI doing investigating if people get paid in college basketball? I think that's pretty much the overwhelming idea behind everybody behind this. The FBI's own case is ridiculous. It's basically saying that they're defrauding the school by paying players to have them come to the school, and them coming to the school is bad for the school, which is how they have apparently had jurisdiction, have to show harm in it. That's a ridiculous case to be able to argue. But that the reason why they have to argue that is because it doesn't cause harm to them, of being able to pay the, Nike and Adidas paying these players. I guess this is Adidas mostly. I'm talking about the wiretaps. But, we're seeing that Bill Self is on a wiretap talking about how he's making a damn strong offer. I'm sorry, no, that was the LSU coach making a damn strong offer to get a kid. That wasn't going to be a one-to-one. He should get it recording. You have Bill Self talking about how he's going to handle it with his guys of getting players paid. And the hypocrisy from the NCAA has led to a massive, massive opinion shift. If you take a look at the money, the hypocrisy, what you've seen from the NBA, just the constant drumbeat of bad press, the losses piling up from illegal courts, none of these have been a domino that have crushed everything. There needed to be a spark and a light. What really was public opinion changing. Never say public opinion doesn't matter when you talk about anything, because sometimes it's the only thing that ended up mattering. Because the reason these court decisions were so narrow is, in general, they've decided that it's not their place to legislate the NCAA. It's pretty much what it's come down to. But you know who can legislate the NCAA? Lawmakers and state representatives. And that's been the domino and the spark. But this doesn't come without this shift in public opinion. So there's a really great, one of the best studies that they've shown about the change in public opinion. And unfortunately, it's blocking. I can't think of the name of it right now. I took a look of it, but I read on MGO blog, if you want to take a search through it there. Talked about 15 years ago, public opinion and paying players was somewhere in the 35-40% when you take a look at it overall. Today, it's more in the 60% range. And if you take a look at specifically the younger generation, it's massive explosion. It's almost 70-80% think paying players, and some of these have really strong opinions associated with this. What does this mean? Well, this means politicians have an incentive to be able to go do this, and this call comes from the California law to be able to make it. Do I think the politicians probably believe in a lot what they're doing, and that college players should be played? Yeah, I think they probably do believe in that a lot. Do I think that, being a kind of a cold hard realist, and think the fact that their names can get spread into the gospel and they can get all this press by being able to show something that is incredibly popular, that has very little downside, specifically in areas like the state of California, where they have a large group of younger voters that they can appease to? But the thing is, if this was just, let's be honest, a very left-leaning side, a very left-leaning state, I think the NCAA would fight this tooth and nail. And they really are, by the way. But I think the fact that you have Florida bipartisan support, South Carolina bipartisan support, Michigan bipartisan support, all with their own very unique reasons for doing it, their own laws that could completely contradict each other. You have real laws that are subsiding an organization that's basically picked by the colleges, that has no real power. Now they have weight under him, and guess what people are gonna have to do? Sign with the actual law of the state that they can get in trouble with over this pseudo organization. And that's the domino, right? Everything else we talked about is kindling, it's fuel on the fire. The state law of California was the domino that has sparked everything. It sparked all the other states starting to fast track these bills, because now you have a popular agenda that can get politicians' names on it, that has support over bipartisanship, and that can change the game. And the NCAA, originally, when the California law said we're going to fight this tooth and nail, this is illegal, they talked about this being unconstitutional completely, that they were going to fight it from an interstate commerce standpoint, which pretty much any lawyer who looked at it said this is BS. But the point is, it doesn't matter from that standpoint. The more states that get involved in this, the less they have a chance. And truthfully, you have a giant place to be a giant cluster if California's law is different from Florida's law, which is different from Michigan's law, which is different from South Carolina's law, right? This is a chance to be a giant mess. But the thing is, the California law that started this up is very smart. It has a 2023 start date. The entire idea is to pressure the NCAA to do something on this. So they're kind of pushed in a corner. So they had a bunch of decisions to be able to make. That gives us the Tuesday's release. Tuesday's release, which was, I got to tell you, from a PR standpoint, it's good stuff. Like it's the creme de la creme, genius. They had a lot of organizations push it as NCAA going to pay players for name, image, and likeness. We're going to do the nil rights. We're going to pay them. We're going to be able to do this. They had a lot of conversations going to be around this, that we have to be the leaders. I mean, a lot of things that I think really the lawmakers wanted the NCAA to be able to do in the first place, right? Which was lead this charge to deal with the changing in times, to be able to allow players to profit over their name, image, and likeness. Well, here's the thing about this. They hedge. Ooh boy, do they hedge a lot in this. So it all comes down to a one real specific line into the release. It all comes from, they are mandating, requiring schools to take a look at how the best to deal with this name, image, and likeness issue, ideally by being able to make sure there is compensation all within the amateurism model. Why does that matter? Because amateurism to them is non-professional athletes, therefore not getting paid. The NCAA talked about when they had their program put together, in the summer, they got together, created council on this, and they talked about being able to create a way for them to get compensated in academic-based areas. Pretty much what they're saying is this and this. You are required to figure out how to deal with this and look into this. This is really important. Number one thing, you're required. But look, it's got to be in the amateurism model, i.e., it can't involve directly paying players for their name, image, and likeness. Does that seem contradictory? It's meant to be. What this mandate technically says to them is you can't pay the kids, but you have to really look into seriously hard on how to compensate them, but you can't pay them. What they got stressed is not being able to pay. That's essentially what this is. This is a do nothing, essentially, while making it look like we're doing a lot. Why do this? Try to win the PR battle. And I think they've been way more successful than they should be, which is one of the reasons why I'm making an entire video on this subject and trying to deal with potential misconceptions along this law. I'll do a Q&A next week along those lines as well. So essentially we have this, is they want to make it look like they're leading this charge the way the lawmakers want to, so they can, essentially get good press by saying, okay, they've done dumb things, but they're serious about it this time. But we don't actually want to do this. Why? Like I said, PR is a huge thing. They're undoubtedly hoping they can use this as a way to say, hey, hold off on these laws, right? Let us figure it out. We're doing it ourselves without actually being able to do nothing. But it's a real hedge in their bet where they're in a corner. Allow them to essentially turncoat if they need to from their own model, which makes them go, no, we've been doing this all along. We've been trying to lead, while still being able to fight tooth and nail to prevent being able to pay kids. So what is this important to ourselves? Is this important for us to know what's actually going on, which is that the colleges, remember, this all comes down to the colleges. The NCAA is a powerless organization. The colleges do not want to pay their student athletes for essentially providing a service and being able to use their name, image, and likeness. So what they want to be able to do is be able to look like they're coming out in good faith of that we're going to try to be able to do this. So hopefully in their wildest dreams be able to delay these bills that are coming down the pipe and stop this from having a major effect to their amateurism model, i.e. not paying players and keeping the money for themselves, so that they're able to keep everything the same, and while they rack up this massive amount of money in this contract, in these TV contracts. The other hope, of course, is that if they have to be able to do this, that they're able to kind of show that, oh no, we're leading the charge, and this is something that they can kind of save face about if this really comes around to what it's probably going to be, which is that college athletes are going to be able to sell their name, image, and likeness. And I think that this is a very intelligent move from them. But I think it's also for us, even the ones who are frustrated by the fact that it's being misrepresented as, hey, we're going to allow us to pay the players, as this is a major win. This is the NCAA essentially conceding that tide's moving against him, and we got to make a counter move. Now, was there counter move punting? Yeah, I mean, listen, Kirk Ferentz loves this, right? Like, this is some Big Ten ass move, counter moving. Yeah, this is punting and saving face, right? This is scoring a touchdown down 17 with a minute left, 2 minutes left to make it look like the score was closer. It's a saving face move. But the fact they feel pressured to be able to do that means this is having a huge impact on them. And I think it means more and more likely that this name, image, and light thing, that rights thing, which you're like, like me, who consider this something that you are very passionate about and think that is important, that this is going to happen. And this domino that we thought might fall with the California law has spread and is a wildfire that the NCAA doesn't think is they're going to be able to contain, and they're starting to, well, fight it as hard as you possibly can. Tell everybody to pay no attention to the man behind the curtain and try to save face. The end of the Wizard of Oz, right? He helped Dorothy get back to campus. And that's what the NCAA is trying to do, at least trying to convince you. All right, guys, let me know what you think. Drop a comment below. Please like for future episodes and subscribe. We're getting closer to 100 subscribers, which is a huge deal for us. From Armchair Sports Talk, we'll see you next time.